Well, good morning, everybody. I declare the council meeting now open. I'd ask for everybody's attention while we have the affirmation. Thank you. We recognise the traditional owners of the land. We are inspired by the early pioneers and by those who gave their lives for our country. We now ask God's blessing on our deliberations and on our commitment to build a better lifestyle and environment. Thank you for that. I just have to add today that this council meeting is being recorded and live streamed to council's YouTube channel. The recording will be archived and made available on council's website. Thank you for that. Now we'll deal with council business. Are there any apologies today? I'm not seeing any there. Okay, so no need for us to accept the apologies. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting on the 2nd of August and also the unscheduled council meeting held on Monday the 16th of August. Could I get a motion in regard to those minutes, please? Thank you, Councillor Haswell. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Grady, and I take it they're a correct and accurate record. Thank you. Any matters arising from those minutes? I'm not seeing anything, thank you. Item number 4, are there any presentations and awards today? Not seeing any, thank you. Any presentations of petitions or joint letters? I'm not seeing any there today. It's becoming a little bit boring, isn't it, when we don't get any petitions or that to deal with? Thank you. Item number 6, any disclosure of interest or declarations of conflict of interest? Thank you. I'm not seeing any there. Item number 7 is the report of the informal meetings of council over the since our last meeting, and there's numerous meetings there. I'll just pick out a couple, but there's quite a lot. Presentation from Providence Gold and Minerals, presentation from Avio. Any of these presentations can be mentioned by individual councillors at your councillor reports if you wish to. The Donald Mineral Sands Community Reference Group, Sanana Resources Centre Caveat, quite a number there. There's a presentation from Rural Councils Victoria, quite a lot. Any items brought forward? Item number 8. I'm not seeing any. The decisions for council today, 9.1, the council action plan 21 to 22. The purpose here is to adopt the council action plan 21-22, and I need a motion in regard to this item, please.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move that council accepts and adopts the council action plan 21-22.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dempsey. Councillor Irwin, you'd like to speak on the motion?
Yeah, look, this is an extensive plan. It's what council wants to achieve in the next few years, and I don't think there's anything left field in it, but look, it is a roadmap for our future, and it's an exciting one. There's plenty on it, and I think if we can achieve that, especially in our first year, there's a considerable amount. We'll be doing a very good job. So I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dempsey.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Aaron as well. The council action plan is obviously the action plan that sits under council's strategic plan, the broader plan. So this is just narrowing down what will be done within the 12 months, and then that's been broken down into how that will be achieved quarterly. So it's great that there's a bit of a plan in place for how staff will be delivering these items and what they'll be delivering moving forward for the next 12 months, and timelines that we and the CEO can hold them accountable to have them achieved by, as well as then, we'll do the same thing each 12 months of the plan to make sure that that's all up to scratch and we're achieving what we can, we set out to for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dempsey. Any other councillors like to speak? I'm not seeing anybody. Councillor Irwin, would you like to sum up?
Not really much to add, except council staff will be extremely busy over the next 12 months. And as I said before, if we can achieve this, it'll be a great effort and really put us on the right track forward.
Thank you very much. I'll put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 9.1.2, the Kindergarten Central Registration and Enrolment Policy. And the purpose here is to, for this report, is to recommend Council adopts the Kindergarten Central Registration and Environment Policy. Now, we've had some briefings in regard to it, and I've got a recommendation here. Can I get a motion in relation to that recommendation, please?
Happy to move that, Mr Mayor. Happy to move that Council adopts the Kindergarten Central Registration and Enrolment Policy.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Could I get a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. There's been some consultation with our parent community, with the kindergarten providers. We've obviously got 4 kindergarten in our shire. Critically, with the introduction of 3-year-old kinder, as well as our 4-year-old program, this is a streamlined process to give every family access in a timely and efficient manner and allocate out all the places to our kindergartens, once again, fair and equitably. It's critical in terms of early years development. We know in terms of a child's formation, in terms of educational outcomes, early years are critical. Sitting behind that as well, we've got data to suggest that in our Northern Grampians Shire family, there's probably 8.7% of families and children that are vulnerable. So this process ensures that they get an opportunity as well for a lifelong learning that will enhance their aspirations later in life. So from that perspective, I commend this policy.
Thank you very much, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Irwin?
Yeah, well summed up by Councillor Driscoll. The acronym for this system is the Central Registration Enrolment Scheme. It will be moving to online system, and we'll keep the information in one place, and certainly will streamline the system. I guess we're in that phase of life where we're all transitioning to online, and it just cuts down the paperwork and keeps the information in one place, so it's easy to find. So this is a step along that line. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion? I'm not seeing any. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to sum up?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Quickly, obviously it just reinforces the fact that it nurtures and encourages the future citizens of the Northern Grampians Shire to be the best they can.
Thank you very much. I'll put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 9.1.2, the event policy. And the purpose here is to for the adoption of the proposed event policy. Now I have a recommendation here. Can I get a motion in regard to the recommendation, please?
Happy to move that.
Okay. Councillor Irwin, I think, is going to hop in first.
Yep.
Just getting to the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Happy to move that the council adopts the events policy 2021.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Driscoll, thank you very much.
Happy to second that, Mr. Mayor. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Irwin, like to speak on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Look, events have been a major part of our municipality, and we've had some quite large events. They've struggled under COVID, and this policy and some of the feedback we've had that they're a bit onerous to fill out for some organisations, especially when they only have small events. But so this is an updated policy to help assist groups, both large and small, to along the events policy guidelines. It is, well, as I said, it's an updated policy, and certainly, hopefully, that in 2022 that events can get back on the stage. And although we have had the odd event in between COVID lockdowns, but it has been difficult, and I'm sure that they'll need some assistance when they can run the events. Particularly our sporting events have been severely impacted by COVID, and the other major events too. Look, they go hand in hand with tourism, and the sooner we can get them up and running again under this new policy, community will be better off. So well done to all those involved in the making of this policy. It does update everything, and hopefully users will find this relatively easy to use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Irwin has articulated that fairly well, but I think critically the events, this rather timely that we've tidied up this process because of our frustration with lack of events. I think gives us an opportunity in community groups to regroup, and obviously there's been, as I said, some, I suppose, laconicness or lack of interest over COVID, combination of both. But this will hopefully uplift our community's well-being, because it's all about socialisation as well as attracting people. But I think for our community, this is critical, and I think it's rather timely that we're tidying this up now, and I think it's a great initiative by all of us.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Ostasevich.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I think the policy here really does build on the opportunity for economic growth as well. I can't speak for other events, but I can speak to the issue of Babylon in the northern part of the Shire, and the knock-on effect for the Sonata community as a direct result of the spend within the community of several thousand people attending is a significant feature for businesses and for the community in general. Volunteer organisations like ours also benefited. So the structure, the framework that's been put in place to streamline the development of these events, to go out and seek other events for our Shire, we can only support that and applaud it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any other councillors like to speak? Just before I get Councillor Irwin to sum up, mental health and well-being is very important, and it's raising its head a lot now because of COVID, and events are certainly a very important part of keeping our people's mental health in order. So sooner we can get into the policy and get things up and running again, the much better we'll be. Councillor Irwin, you'd like to sum up?
I think it's all been said, Mr. Mayor. Nothing further.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 9.4.1, the Audit and Risk Committee Activity Report, Committee Chair and Honorariums. The purpose here is to undertake a number of actions in accordance with the Northern Grampians Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee Charter and its guidelines. Could I have a motion in regard to 9.4.1, please? I think you're trying to come in, Councillor Rowan, are you?
I am trying to come in, Mr. Mayor.
There's a bit of clicking going on in the background there.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that that Council appoints Mr. Peter Knights to the Audit and Risk Committee until 30th of June 2024. Appoints Mr. Peter Knights as Audit and Risk Committee Chairperson for the 21-22 financial year. 3, sets a remuneration of the Audit and Risk Committee Chairperson from 1st of July 2021 at $2,500 per annum. Point 4, sets a remuneration for the external independent Audit and Risk Committee members, excluding the chairperson, from 1st of July 2021 at $250 per meeting attended. And 5, receives and notes the Audit and Risk Committee Biennial Report 2021.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder in regard to that motion? Thank you, Councillor Ostasevich. Councillor Irwin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Look, the Audit and Risk Committee is a vital one, and we're indeed fortunate to have 3 extremely capable people, external people on that committee, which Mr. Peter Knights has been chairman and hopefully will accept the position again. He is a very capable chairperson, and I think all 3 of them have a finance knowledge, a very extensive financial knowledge, and very up to date with risk policies as well. And I think this council is very fortunate to have 3 extremely good external members on the Audit and Risk Committee, as well as great staff. And I think it sets this council up very well, that there's a close eye kept on both the finances and also the risk management of this shire. So I hopefully Mr. Knights accepts the appointment and remains on as chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ostasevich?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, Audit and Risk is a very crucial role within Council. It's certainly part and parcel of our adherence to governance. Peter Knight's skills are exemplary, and we're very lucky, we're very fortunate in the Shire to have him occupy the chair of Audit and Risk. So I think it's a tremendous thing that he continues on as chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion? I'm not seeing anything, but I'll endorse the comments of the mover and the seconder. Peter Knight certainly does a great job, along with the other 2 independent people, and we can't do without them. Very important organisation, the Audit and Risk Committee, to make sure that council is heading in the right direction. So I would certainly endorse the 2 previous speakers' comments. Councillor Irwin, like to say?
No, nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much for that. Uh, 9.4.2. The proposed road naming of Zabina Lane, and the purpose here is to consider undertaking the process to name an unnamed road between Dunstan and Trafalgar Streets, St Arnaud, as Zabina Lane. So we have a recommendation. Could I get a motion in regard to that recommendation, please? Or any motion?
Happy to. move the motion that council gives public notice of his intention to name an unnamed road between Dunstan and Trafalgar Street in Sudanit as Zabina Lane.
Thank you very much, Councillor Driscoll. Could I get a seconder, please? Someone to second?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dempsey. Councillor Driscoll, would like to speak on the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Council's had a request from owners as they're going to build a property basically at the end of this lane to name it Zabina Lane. Now, Zabina Lane, bit of history behind it. Our people have done some work. He virtually resurrected the Lord Nelson gold mine. People, anecdotally it goes that initially opposed by the miners and he'd have no hope, but he turned it into probably the richest mine that ever came out of Sudanit. He then was very heavily involved in community and civic affairs. We've got his great granddaughter, I suppose, 2 or 3 generations, has given permission for his name to be used. And the other curiosity is that in most instances, lanes are named after or using a surname. But of course, in this instance, because his name was Zabina Lane, the naming people have acquiesced to call it Zabina, which is a bit unique in the sense that usually your first name is not used on a lane, but this is a sense of uniqueness and curiosity in itself as well. But I certainly commend the motion. Thank
you very much, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Dempsey?
Yeah, Councillor Driscoll covered all the points I was going to say as well. Basically, some great history on Zabina Lane and a unique situation for, calling it Lane is a little ridiculous. So to have his full name in there is great for a number of reasons. So I commend the motion to council.
Thank you, Councillor Dempsey. Any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion? I'm not seeing any, so Councillor Driscoll, would you like to sum up?
I think enough's been said. Zabina Lane.
Thank you very much. Put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 9.4.3. Another name proposal for Gambetta Lane. The consideration here is to undertake the process to name an unnamed road off the Donald Road stall as Gambetta Lane. Could I get a motion in regard to the recommendation, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'll be there in a second. Get slower as you get towards the agenda. That council gives public notice of its intention to name the unnamed road off the Donald Road as Gambetta Road.
Thank you very much. Could I get a seconder in regard to that motion, please? Councillor Haswell, I think first. Sorry, Eddie, you missed out there. So we're seconding the motion, Councillor Haswell. Councillor Irwin, you'd like to speak on behalf of the motion?
Yeah, look, I think the Gambetta family were the original settlers around that area. There is a little, well, once it was probably a ford, but there's a crossing there referred to as Gambetta's Dip. It does go through a small, well, it's basically an unmade road. Won't change the maintenance schedule of the road, but it will formally name the road. So it's going out for public consultation. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Haswell, you second the motion?
Just a little bit. It's nice to pay homage to the history of the area and the people that were our early settlers. I'm just reading here that Mr. Gambetta settled in the area in 1874, quite a while ago, getting on for, well, 150 years ago. So, yes, nothing further than that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Irwin probably knew him personally, Councillor Irwin?
No. No, not quite. We were here about the same time, though.
Councillor Starcevich, would you like to speak about the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo Councillor Haswell's commentary about the fact that it's good to see local contributions recognised throughout our Shire. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion? I'm not seeing any, so I'll put the well, you'd like to sum up, Councillor Irwin?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Uh, 9.4.4, the Synana Resource Centre caveat, and for council to determine whether or not to remove the caveat on the title for the property located at 85 Napier Street or Napier Street in St Arnaud. Now I have a recommendation here. Could I get a motion in regard to that recommendation, please? Or another motion? Councillor Stasevich, could you tell us what the motion is, please?
Unmute, Eddie.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Thank you for your patience, councillors. I'll get there eventually. The motion is that council maintain the caveat on the title of the property occupied by the St Arnaud Community Resource Centre located at 85 Napier Street, St Arnaud.
Thank you. Could I get a seconder in regard to that motion, please? Councillor Grady, thank you very much. Councillor Stasevich.
Mute my mic's on. The request came through from the Resource Centre to remove the caveat, which effectively meant that council's contribution towards the property of some $56,000 would be rescinded. I think that we would not be representing the ratepayers that contributed to the $56,000 towards the purchase of that property adequately if we simply remove the caveat. I think it's important that that caveat stays in place to recognise council's contribution, but more importantly, the ratepayers' contribution towards that property. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Grady.
I'd just like to back up Councillor Eddie's comments. I think it's the right thing to do to leave there to protect some of the ratepayers' funds. And I don't think it'll have a huge impact on it by leaving the caveat on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Grady. Any other councillors like to speak on the motion, for or against?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm certainly supportive of the motion, but in saying that, I just want to commend the Community Resource Centre members. They do some great work in our community from that perspective. They've had their tough times in terms of financial challenges over the years, but they've managed to be now an integral part of our community and a lot of their service provision. So from that perspective, whilst I support the motion, I do commend them on their works.
Thank you very much, Councillor Driscoll. Any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Stasevich, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Driscoll is quite right. They have the Resource Centre community, the Resource Centre volunteers promote a food bank. They actively engage with those that are needing employment, assist them with developing their resumes and the like. So they're all important features. And I know that council has supported them and will continue to support them in various ways to assist them in gaining grants to extend their services or continue their services. But I think it's important for the community to recognise that we also have a responsibility to the broader ratepayer community of our shire to maintain a level of ownership in the property. And the caveat, by the by, is that if the property is sold, that council's contribution is returned to council. If that caveat was released, then the full funds of the sale would proceed to the sellers. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stasevich. If there's no other councillors wish to speak, I'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much for that. 9.4.5, the Hall of Fame lease. And the purpose here is for council to commence the process to enter into a formal lease with the Stawell Athletic Club. Now I have a recommendation here. Could I get a motion in regard to that recommendation or any other motion, please? Councillor Irwin, you're going for your buttons again. You've got a slow computer there today.
Yes, I have affected by the weather, I think.
Might be the fact that Melbourne's in the finals.
Yes, fast finishing. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that council enters into a lease agreement with the Stawell Athletic Club Inc. for the use of Central Park Hall of Fame and authorises the Mayor and two, authorises the Mayor and Chief Executive Officer to sign the relevant lease documents as agreed by all parties.
Thank you for that motion. Could I have a seconder, please, in regard to that motion? Councillor Driscoll, thank you very much for your seconding. Councillor Irwin, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just quickly, look, the Hall of Fame, which was it's going back a few years now, built, and it's sort of our VLC was in there at one stage, and it's sort of just bobbed along. This is a bit formalisation of a lease agreement, which would now put some emphasis back on the athletic club to cover some of the costs, but it does formalise things. It's a 5x5x5 agreement, and I think it just formalises things. Not a huge amount of dollars will change hands, but it does formalise things. So hopefully all parties are a bit clearer about the use of that building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Irwin summed it up pretty well. It just virtually crystallises the fact that the Stawell Athletic Club now has exclusive use to the building, and from that perspective, it probably, it stabilises their situation as well.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion? I'm not seeing any. Councillor Irwin, would you like to sum up, please?
Look, just as Councillor Driscoll said, they have exclusive use of the building now, and the athletic club on a bit firmer footing with the store gift, and I think this is probably a good step forward all round.
Thank you very much. I'll put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Item number 10, notice of motion or rescission, and I don't believe we have any today. Not seeing any, thank you. Item number 11, reports from councillors or committees. An opportunity for councillors to bring to the attention of our communities anything specific that has happened since the last council meeting. Anybody have any reports, please? Councillor Ostasovic. Get that mute off, Ed.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to report that I was invited to join a committee, an advisory group, which is slightly more than an advisory group for the renewable energy sector by Breeze, which is a group enacted through Sustainability Victoria's funding. We're finding more and more emphasis being placed on renewable energy, and we in this Shire are fortunate enough to have quite substantial renewable energy resources available to us and to the community through wind and sun. And unfortunately, we're not by the coast, so we don't have wave power, but that's okay. We'll find a way. The group that there are 7 groups across the local government areas of Victoria. The concept is over the next 12 to 18 months to find community sanctioned projects that can receive funding to the point where they have a feasibility or a bankable document available to them, which is a great stepping stone because oftentimes these types of funding is difficult to gain. So I will keep the community and council aware of what's happening in that space. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors like to report on their activities? Councillor Grady, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I attended Great Western Futures Committee meeting a couple of weeks back. It was quite a good meeting, but we've got a problem down there with attendance. So I don't know whether we can do anything as a council to try and promote to get a few more people there or not, but that's becoming a bit of a problem with some of these smaller committees.
Okay, so the call out there is for the community to get behind all of the committees and specifically the Great Western Futures Committee.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Grady. Any other councillors? Can I just get a motion in regard to accepting those reports, please?
Happy to move that those reports be received, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Haswell. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Any urgent business? Item number 12.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have one item of urgent business, letter under seal to Allan Ralph.
Thank you. So could I have a motion in regard to accepting the urgent business item first of all? Yes, Councillor Driscoll, you'll second Councillor Irwin's submission there.
Very much so, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So all in favour of dealing with the urgent business item? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Irwin, your urgent business item, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that Council acknowledges a significant contribution of Mr. Allan Ralph to the Northern Grampians Shire and that a letter be sent under seal to recognise his contribution.
Thank you very much. Could I have a seconder in regard to that motion?
Happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Councillor Irwin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, look, Mr. Allan Ralph has made a significant contribution to the Shire, particularly around the area of the airport. Did an enormous amount of work around getting our airport up to speed, and also Visitor Information Centre out at Halls Gap, and the Hall of Fame installed too. So significant contribution around the engineering component. Passed a lot of knowledge on to our younger division at the council, and unfortunately, due to some health issues, has had to retire. And being a local too, and I might say that he was attended Stall Tech when I was there. He is a little bit older than me, but spent many years in various parts of Australia with his engineering career, and brought a wealth of knowledge back to the Shire when he returned here. It's probably going back a decade or so, just over. And we're very fortunate to have a person of his knowledge at the Shire, and I think it's just appropriate that we acknowledge his great contribution to this Shire.
Thank you very much. Councillor Driscoll?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Irwin covered it pretty well, but I think a guy like Allan Ralph, apart from his font of knowledge, I think it was the way he delivered. He had a sense of humanity, he listened, all those marvellous attributes that whilst you can be good at your job, it's the way you deliver your craft, and I think Allan Ralph delivered it brilliantly. There won't be another one like Allan Ralph, I don't think. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Any other councillors like to speak for the motion? I think we'd all probably like to say some things about Allan Ralph because he's been part of our life for a long time, and we wish him and his family well in the future. Councillor Irwin, you'd like to sum up?
Nothing further. All been said, I think.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item number 13, public question time, and I understand there hasn't been any written public questions today. We have a couple of items to deal with in closed council, so could I ask for a motion in regard to closing council and suspending standing orders, please?
I'll move that we suspend standing orders and enter into closed council.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll
Councillor
second
Haswell.
that.
Thank you, Councillor Haswell. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We just need to
through the OBS technology that she has to
in closed council dealt with 3 items. I would hand over to the CEO to elaborate on what the decision of council was.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the closed session, council resolved to waive planning permit fees with conditions under item 14.1. 14.2, council resolved to extend a contract of a panel contract for civil engineers and project management consultants for a period of 12 months. And the third item, 14.3, provision of building service contracted services for a period of 12 months and a further extension of 12 months at the end of that. And those were the 3 items, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for that. I think that concludes our council meeting today. Thank you very much, everybody, all of my fellow councillors and staff who have participated today. Thank you to everybody who might have streamed in with us and observed the business of council. Everybody keep yourself safe. Let's hope the COVID situation starts to relieve in the very near future. Thanks again and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye all.